warm welcome to the first episode of CTRL+ALT+LEAD, where we talk about everything leadership and what drives high performance in teams. With our collective 50 years of experience working across industries, we're trusting that we're going to share what we've learned over the years, and we're going to tune into that with the power of vulnerability and keep it real. Meet my colleague and friend, Rudashni. Rudashni is more than a leader. She's a catalyst for change. Her leadership style is a powerful blend of inspiration, ethics, and value-driven disruption. As an HR leadership executive consultant, therapist, business and life coach, moderator, facilitator, and mentor, her impact stretches local, across Africa, and global landscapes. As the visionary leader of Flip Your Script, she believes that when you open yourself up to flipping your script, you don't just change your habits or your actions, you change how you show up for yourself, for your teams, and the people who matter most in your life. Furthermore, it's about granting yourself grace when you fumble, and more importantly, it's about giving yourself and others the permission to see differently, lead differently, and live differently.
Picture this, a world where technology doesn't just support work, but actually supercharges human potential. That's been Mike's mission over the years. With 2 decades of experience, he's become something of a translator between technology and human capability. His work isn't just about fancy algorithms or complicated tech. Rather, it's about creating environments where people can do their best and most incredible work. Mike is the founder of Exponential Growth and is absolutely obsessed with helping organizations turn their teams into top performers. He designs solutions that don't just improve businesses, but fundamentally transforms how people work, think, and succeed. So today we're talking about all things belonging. I think it's important to realize or to recognize that there's a difference between belonging versus fitting in. Belonging is actually the opposite of fitting in. Fitting in means that we are changing ourselves to make other people like us. Fitting in means that we've somehow betrayed ourselves. True belonging, on the other hand, doesn't require us to change who we are. It requires us to be who we are. In the spirit of belonging, Mike, can you tell us more about your story of belonging versus fitting in?
I think back early in my career when I landed my first corporate gig. I had started at 18 years old and had worked there for 7 years. I felt like I had an illustrious and successful career, and I really felt like I had belonged as part of that talent acquisition organization that I had worked for. Working over weekends, putting in work unprovoked, simply because I felt like I had contributed. Interestingly enough, Rudashni, this is not how my story had started. I'd been working in the hospitality industry, and when I had landed this opportunity and I signed my contract, I then went into induction. I heard the consultants talking about capturing candidates, and I immediately thought to myself, what have I gotten myself into? Right. These folk are out here trafficking people, capturing them and putting them into the system. Did I just join a cult organization? Now you can imagine I was also afraid to ask, thinking that I'd get backlash, and probably thinking, didn't you read your contract, dude? I still remember not understanding terms like EBITDA, GP, taking screenshots of candidates' information. Everyone is twice my age. And when I think about that in the context of fitting in and how 7 years later, I then really felt a sense of belonging, I'm thinking I'm attributing that to the fact that there was investment in training and continuous learning and development.
And I think the reality is that when we walk into organizations, there's an expectation that the organization creates a sense of belonging. And yes, that is important. I just want to go back to some of Brené Brown's thought leadership around belonging. And she talks about this idea of belonging, and she says belonging is being part of something bigger, but also having the courage to stand alone. and to belong to yourself above all else. Now, Mike, I think that's something that's so important. And the truth is that belonging really starts with self-acceptance. Your level of belonging, in fact, can never ever be greater than your level of self-acceptance, because believing that you're enough is what gives you the courage to be authentic, be vulnerable, and to be imperfect. So true belonging is not something that we negotiate with anyone. True belonging is about your daily practices that demands integrity and authenticity. It's really a personal commitment that we carry within our hearts. Because Mike, if you think about this, if you walk through this world looking for evidence that you don't belong, you're always going to find it. Don't walk through this world looking for evidence that you're not enough, because you're always going to find that. Our worth and our sense of belonging is not negotiated with anyone but yourself.
Rudashni, that's insightful. What I'm hearing you say is that belonging actually starts and begins with you.
Absolutely.
Some of the research in neuroscience suggests that social rejection activates the same brain regions as physical pain, and this really underscores how belonging is hardwired into our human existence. So then how do we balance the benefit that comes from individuals being able to bring the best versions of themselves to the working environment versus them needing to live into the specific behaviors that an organization values? Where do we draw the line between promoting for teams and employees to feel like they belong versus doing your actual job? When we consider the service profit chain, so how customers buy into a product or service, why do you think that belonging matters, and why should this be anything that organizations even consider?
That's a really great question, and not only is it a great question, a very relevant question for many organizations today. And I think if you think about this concept of belonging, you spoke about the service profit chain, and I just want to go back to that. The reality is that profit is an outcome of many other factors. Profit is an outcome of culture, of leadership, of employee experience, of customer experience, of customer advocacy. So we have to go back and we have to be clear about why that profit becomes an outcome. It's because of your company culture. It's because when individuals join an organization or have been a part of an organization for years, people want to feel that they can develop their personal artistry. They want to feel and know that they can play into their strengths and they can contribute to their highest point of contribution within their teams. How does belonging manifest in that way? People need tools, they need resources, they need mentors, they need access to team members. That's what makes people feel a sense of belonging. They need those opportunities. And going back to this concept of psychological safety, it's actually the very first stage of psychological safety. The importance of inclusion safety and how that might manifest. People want to feel a sense that they belong to something greater, to something bigger. They want to feel a sense of I'm valued and I'm included. And how does organizations do that? You provide them with the right resources, you provide them with the tools, you give them access to coaches and mentors, you give them access to teams with special capabilities and specialist skill sets. And in that way, people feel a sense of belonging. They feel a sense like I'm actually valued here and I'm a part of this organization. In that way, they get to contribute to their highest point of contribution. People also want to feel a sense of being able to thrive within any organization. And how does one thrive? One thrives by having exposure and opportunities to learning. You're learning from systems, from people, from processes. It's also about being able to be the idiot in the room. As Simon Sinek says, be the idiot in the room, ask for help. Rumble in a bit of vulnerability and feel safe that you can do that, you can ask those questions, you can challenge, You can voice your opinions without fear of being embarrassed or humiliated. And that's something that Timothy Clark talks about, and he says that's called learner safety. So you're able to learn in a safe environment. People also want to feel that they can engage, that they can collaborate, and they can truly ignite change in an organization. And how do they do that? They want to be able to share their thinking. They want to be able to share their contrarian thinking, again, without being embarrassed or humiliated. People want to be able to leverage off their strengths and the strengths of their teams to really contribute to meaningful conversations within their organization. I think there's a need to feel I can be myself and I can tap into my cognitive and cultural diversity and truly feel a sense of belonging in that organization or team. And that speaks to what Timothy Clark calls contributor or challenger safety. It's really about increasing one's psychosocial vulnerability within a team. Lastly, Mike, I think the reality is that people really just want to make a meaningful impact in any organization. They bring the best versions of themselves. They bring their full arsenal of their skills, strengths, knowledge, experience, and they get to leverage off the team strengths to really create value and impact. So going back to why is it important, I think a sense of belonging, or cultivating that sense of belonging within an organization, not only drives high performance, it inspires high performance.
So Rashni, what I'm hearing you say is that belonging is the bridge between individual potential and organizational excellence. It's where personal purpose meets collective mission. The research validates that employees who feel that they belong take fewer sick days, they are more engaged, more inspired, there's lower employee turnover, which ultimately translates into higher performance. So belonging is the invisible thread that connects us to others and to ourselves. It's the feeling of being seen, being valued, being accepted, not for what we do, but for who we are. What do you think would need to be in place for your people to feel a sense of belonging? Please add your comments and thoughts to the chat. We'd love to hear from you. Stay tuned for our next episode where we talk about topics high performance related. From me, Michael.
And myself, Rajeshni, it's cheers.
Goodbye.